I'm now going to introduce Lee Elliot Major, who is the Chief Executive of the Sutton Trust. And the most important thing you need to know about Lee, he's just written the definitive work on social mobility, which is being launched in September, right, Lee?
Indeed, yeah.
Okay.
By Penguin, September 27th. Thank you, Peter. Okay, welcome everyone. It's a real delight to have 3 actual apprentices with us this morning. And I guess when we were thinking of all this, I was imagining a sort of TV apprentice sort of style programme with perhaps Sir Peter grilling you 3, but we didn't go for that, so don't worry. And actually talking to you this morning, I think you would have given as good as you got from Peter, I have to say. So what we're going to do is get you 3 to introduce yourselves, and then I'm going to sort of probe you with some questions. So we have Sydney Price, Matty Vipulananthan, is that how you pronounce it? Sorry. Thank you. And Jenny Dallas. But perhaps, Sydney, if you can speak for 5 minutes, then we get you all to speak for 5 minutes, and then I'll ask some questions.
Okay.
Over to you.
So my name is Sydney Price. I'm a Level 3 Business Administration apprentice at Major Players. Major Players, we're located in Covent Garden. We are the leading creative, digital and tech recruitment company in the City of London. So my role there is front of house, so it's kind of dealing with all the ordering, all of the logistics, kind of like office management. But because with an apprenticeship you get 20% off the job training, that gives me an opportunity to go and learn about other areas of the business. So I'm involved in planning of events, the operations side of things, sometimes go down into the finance side and all that sort of stuff. So I get to get involved in all the different things of the business, which is great. My story, I've worked since I was 16. I did my A-levels, finished those, didn't really fancy going to university, so I got a job in a primary school as a learning support assistant. The school was quite low income, so it was quite challenging because obviously you kind of had to bring the kids up as well as just teaching. So that was really interesting. But after 3 years of working there, and I'd kind of worked as high as I could without having a degree, I was told, you know, to progress in teaching, you needed to have a degree. And having worked since the age of 16, I wasn't really prepared to give up the income that I was getting to go and move on from that. So I then started looking into apprenticeships, which I found quite scary at first because I always thought that apprenticeships were for people that had failed their A-levels, failed their GCSEs, but also for just manual labour kind of jobs. So it was really refreshing to know that I could actually kickstart a career from doing an apprenticeship. So then I got in touch with a company called White Hat, which is who I'm placed with at the moment, and so is Matty. And they just helped me kind of find the right placement, and then they provide me with the training. So I'm about 6 months in at the moment, and I've been offered a permanent position at my company, which is really great. So that's where I am.
Thank you. Matty?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Matty. So I am an apprentice in the talent development of FlieshmanHillard Fishburn. We are a PR firm, and my role is based in talent development, as I said, in HR. So what I do is HRIS, monthly payroll processing, welfare initiatives and benefits, as well as supporting general business administration. So how did I get into an apprenticeship? So my story is kind of interesting, if I can say so. So I originally actually went to university to study law. And I was there for about 3 years, and I really wasn't enjoying the experience. I'd gone from someone who was excelling in my studies in my A-level to failing and barely passing every single module. And it just came down to me not enjoying the learning process. It wasn't stimulating. I was having about 8 to 12 hours of contact every week, and the rest of it just me on my own reading. And that's simply not how my brain processes information. So I really didn't enjoy that, and it got to the point where I thought, this route of education is not benefiting me in any way, and I need to think about what I'm going to do. So I took a year out and started really researching about alternate options, and that's how, funnily enough, I found an apprenticeship through GetMyFirstJob. So we're nicely linked here. And the apprenticeship provider was White Hat. So Sydney and I get our training through that. And I went through the process with White Hat. I went to a few interviews. I actually started as an intern in FHF, but I think they liked me enough that they decided they'll do an apprenticeship, and I'm really happy there. I think I'm really enjoying the process. I'm learning on as I go, so everything I do in the course is relatable to the work I do. So I'm seeing what I'm learning being processed, and I think that's just really great. I think it's just much more beneficial for people, and I'm regularly learning from experienced professionals, and that's not something I ever got from university. So yeah.
Thank you very much. Jenny?
So I'm Jenny, I'm the brand manager at GetMyFirstJob. I'm also doing a Chartered Manager degree apprenticeship at the University of Portsmouth. So I actually finished my A-levels in 2016 and declined my offer to study at the University of Bath because I just didn't think university was suited for me. And I found my apprenticeship through GetMyFirstJob, funnily enough as well. And I started a level 3 marketing apprenticeship first. I was a marketing assistant. I was then promoted to a marketing executive, and now I'm the brand manager, and I'm doing my Chartered Manager degree apprenticeship. And with that, I'm going to get a BA Honours degree in Business Leadership and Management, and also be chartered by the CMI, which is quite an exciting opportunity because a lot of degrees don't do that anyway, but I'm getting all of that in one. And it's quite interesting because I'm learning about not just my actual role in terms of marketing, I'm also learning about the academic side of leadership, accounting and operations. So everything that I'm learning I can apply to different areas of the organisation as well. So I can work with the accounts department and things like that. And as the brand manager is my role in general, I help people like Matty find apprenticeships. So I'm responsible for making an impact because we're actually a social enterprise. So we try to get as many young people into opportunities because we know how difficult it is to find it. And I know that myself, struggling to find an apprenticeship. And I'm basically responsible for the website, our partnerships, emails, social media, all the information to young people. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, so a few questions then, and maybe we come back to Sydney to begin with, and then you can all come in on this. So as Peter was saying, the default tends to be in many schools, you go to university. You know, that's the only route to success. So I guess it'd be interesting to know what barriers you might have faced and what could be improved to enable more young people to go down this route. So just could you maybe explore that a little bit?
Yeah, so I think first of all, it's kind of the stigma that comes with the word apprentice. So even like nowadays, I'll talk to my friends, I'll tell them about all the stuff that I'm doing, and then they'll be like, so what's your actual job? And I'm like, oh, I'm an apprentice. And then it kind of, they give you this look as if to be like, oh, I thought you had a real job. Those sort of questions tend to pop up. So I think the first thing is there's a kind of stigma around it, which maybe will stop people from going into it. That's the first thing. But also when I was at school, I left my A-levels in 2014. And I think a big thing for me was that I didn't even really know that apprenticeships were available. So my school didn't tell us anything about that. It was A-levels and you go to uni. Everybody goes to uni. So we had like leaderboards on the amount of people that went to uni, and it was more than last year, and yay, big hooray, everyone's going to uni. So I'd never heard of apprenticeships. It wasn't until I was scrolling on Indeed that I actually started considering them, because I saw that they were not the worst paid things that I thought they were. And they were, you know, at some really big companies. Like I think you can get them at Facebook, Google, and Warner Brothers, all just through White Hat at the moment. So there are some pretty good ones out there. So one of the biggest things that I would say, going back to your question, is that we're not educated on them enough. We don't know that they're out there. We don't know where they are, and we don't really know what they could lead to. So I think the biggest barrier is that no one's really very well informed.
Just out of interest, have you gone back to the school to sort of tell them what you've done? Is that...
So I haven't gone back to mine,
right.
But as a brand ambassador for White Hat, I do go around to different schools and do careers fairs and give speeches and just try and let children know about apprenticeships.
Yeah.
Which is...
Thank you. Matty, you did speak a little bit about university, and,
Yes.
and it was interesting. You were saying lack of contact hours. Could you maybe just get a bit more on that and why the apprenticeship side of things is better for you?
So personally, I thrive more in contact with people, learning from people one-on-one, and that's just how I learn better. And as I was saying before, I was going into lecture halls for 8 to 10 hours per week, and with 200 other people and just one person just showing me a presentation, and that wasn't doing anything to me. But like Sydney was saying, that was the only option offered. At school, I don't think apprenticeship was even talked about. We knew it was there, but it was more of an option. Well, the assumption I had then was it was just an option for people who were really struggling right after GCSE. They couldn't handle school anymore, and they definitely weren't going to university, so they have to, if they wanted a qualification, do an apprenticeship. That was the only route for them, but it wasn't something promoted for people who were doing really well at school, but maybe apprenticeship wasn't an option. And in fact, my school was more they had, like Celine was saying, they had leaderboards, they had targets for getting people into university, and that was their focus. And I don't think they really thought about how apprenticeship might benefit students in general.
Do you think fees has changed that? So, we've had more, fees have gone up for universities over the last few years. Yeah. Has that changed how young people are viewing that?
I think definitely. From personally what I know is within my community, there's a lot of people who tend to apply for university because education is such a big thing, and that's their focus. But now with all these debt ideas and all this extra money that you have to pay towards, people are starting to look at other options, and I think schools are becoming more and more aware, thanks to obviously all the news about we're a new generation of apprenticeship with the whole levy, and everyone's becoming more and more interested in what's available, and schools are starting to listen. So I've actually been invited to go back to my school and talk about this. Right. And funnily enough, my head of sixth form is still the head of sixth form, so we'll have a nice conversation about that.
Jenny, do you want to add to that? I suppose thinking about what could be made better, given your experiences, what else could we do?
It's definitely just all about how schools approach you when it comes to apprenticeship. So for me, I chose that I didn't want to go to university because I thought actually at the end of university I could have just got the job straight from leaving college, doing something different. And when I spoke to my tutors about what I should do instead, they were just like, have a look, go through clearing or something else. It might just be the university that you don't want to go for, and they were still pushing the university aspect of it. So it's just more informing teachers about all the different options, because even so my college contact you about what you're doing now, and when they spoke to me about doing an apprenticeship, when I mentioned that I was an apprentice, they kind of just put down the phone, stopped talking to me, and it was just a bit frustrating, because it's more like actually what I'm doing, I'm not saying it's better than what my friends are doing at university, but it's a lot more interesting, and a lot of people don't know that option. So it's more just letting them know that actually doing an apprenticeship, you could be doing just as good a thing going to university, if not better. So it's letting them know that.
Could you tell us that? So just moving on then to, because what part of our campaign is actually about improving the quality of apprenticeships. So that means having progression in them, having support. I know some of your colleagues are here, so be careful what you say. But do you want to start with this? Have you felt well supported? What could be improved possibly for people in terms of what's on offer?
So I think I'm very lucky where I work at GetMyFirstJob. We are very small, there's only about 20 of us, so I'm very supported in everything that I do. I'm quite fortunate in that my manager's very supportive. I've got a mentor who's one of the directors at the company. I'm here with David, our CEO, and he's also very supportive of the apprenticeship as well. So 20% of my time I go to the University of Portsmouth, and I get 8 hours of contact time every week, and they also come in to do meetings with me and my manager and my mentor as well. So in that sense, I'm very supportive. They're also supportive in what I can learn. So for example, I've said to them that I'm interested in senior management. I know I'm only 20, but that is something that I'm interested in going into, and it does mean that they've given me the opportunities to speak to our investors, to go to the board meetings, stuff like that not many people would ever get the opportunity to do. But they're not just supportive in that fact. I think because you're an apprentice, and it's not just the company investing in you, they know that you're also investing in them. So they know that for me, I was considering doing a gap year before I started my apprenticeship, and they've supported me. So I've got 3 weeks off in August to volunteer in Peru. So that's very exciting.
Wow.
They're supporting me through that as well. So it's all about the employer supporting you, and I'm quite lucky in that because they've supported me through the different levels of apprenticeships.
Right.
They knew that I was interested in management, put me through the chartered manager degree apprenticeship.
So Matty, how can we, because this sounds like an amazing example. The problem is we know that a lot of employers don't, but big and small. Anything you could add to sort of say why you think more could do that, or what they might do?
I think it's just investing the time and knowing that just when you speak to employers, letting them know that actually they're going to get something out of this. They're getting the skills, they're getting the skill set they need, and the time they invest, they will get back. And it's about, so my manager, we just have the understanding that, okay, you need to get your 20% in, and you're supposed to complete it within your working hours. So let's space it around. Let's be flexible. And it's just having those conversations. It's just, they don't really need to go beyond. They don't even need to go beyond the expectations. But it's just understanding, having that rapport, and knowing what they need. And it's not necessarily too much. It's actually very doable. But it's just, I think they don't know the supports available to them, the resources, and actually most of them don't even have an idea of what they're supposed to do. And I think it's just educating them more on that.
Sydney, do you want to add this? Because there's been some concerns about the levy and how that's being spent as well. I don't know, it is the levy that businesses are meant to use to invest in this area. I don't know, do you want to say anything about what you've experienced and maybe about that?
Yeah. So I got placed at Major Players. I've been there now since February last year, and my apprenticeship started in March. So the way it works is that Neda, my coach, who is in the front row, she will come into my office once a month, and she'll give me like 3 hours of like a lesson. And that takes place in the workplace. And then once every 2 weeks, we'll just have like a Skype call or something like that, just so that then we can have a catch up. But she's also contactable, so I can contact her at any time if I've got any issues. I can contact the White Hat office. I can kind of contact whoever. They've got a safeguarding person as well. So I think you can have that concern that you don't know what you're paying for, but at the same time, I think if you're taking someone on that's very junior, you know then that they have that support system outside, so hopefully it won't affect the workplace. So like if I have an issue with, say, someone on my team, I'm finding something difficult and I need a bit of advice or something like that, I can then go take that away outside of work because I've got that support network, and then it doesn't affect the workplace. So I think, it just helps to build maturity, and if you're not used to an office environment, then it will come up. But the training that we're getting is top quality. It's all tailored to us, so it's all individual, it's all very personal. I can probably say that me and Matty are probably learning completely different things because we're just different people and we learn differently. So I think it is a good investment, and because you are paying for that training, you then don't have to, the starting wages are that little bit less, so it is a better investment. And in the long term, if you have someone that you've invested in and they know that you've invested in them from day one, they're more likely to stay because they know that you are the reason that they are where they are, and it's more likely to progress that they stay within the company. So I think it's a good investment.
So, we've only got about 5 minutes left, right? So I want you all to give your sort of pitch in terms of what could we improve in terms of apprentices. So what's the one thing, I guess? And Matty, I'll start with you. We've got a whole bunch of important people in this room that could change possibly the policy here and influence things. Is there anything, given your experiences and views in this area, that you would change for apprentices or for the national way that we think about them?
I think the important thing is the message around apprenticeship. We need to make sure that everyone knows that apprenticeship is an option and it's not standard below degrees. It's top quality, and obviously there needs to be more consistency within all apprenticeships and make sure they're actually up to the standard and delivering as they should be. But I think that everyone needs to be aware that it's a qualification that employers are looking at. It's actually something very valuable, and it's a great experience, and that message needs to be shown across.
Okay.
And that will change the viewpoint.
So it's about messaging. And Jenny?
From my perspective, I think from where I'm a brand manager and I can look at all the different opportunities in apprenticeship, the biggest thing that needs to be improved is the number of apprenticeship opportunities that are available, but not just those in like the higher region, for example, like degree apprenticeships. There needs to be more opportunities so people can do stuff like I've done. So I've come in as level 3 and now I am doing a degree apprenticeship. So there needs to be opportunities for people to start at organisations and be able to funnel their way through, because that's how you can invest in talent, that's how talent's developed, that's how we're going to get the future skills that we need for the economy. So, yeah.
Points.
So I think, again, it's about people knowing just how great they are. I think one of the main things is, it's not easy, but it's relatively easy to get younger people interested in it, because it's like, it can help you build a career, it can help launch your career and all of this sort of stuff. But I think what's harder is getting not only the employers on board, because obviously that's difficult because they are the ones that are going to help to contribute to it, but also the parents. I think with a lot of children, if their family has grown up going to university, or they're the first child that has the opportunity to go to university, the parents want them to go. So I think it's quite important for you to inform the parents that this is a really, really good option, and that's then, that will then help to get more people interested in it, and you're more likely to get, high quality candidates going in, because it's the people that would then have gone to university. So I think for me, is getting the parents to know as well, somehow market it to them that it's a really good option.
And do you think some people have, because for universities you go through UCAS, right, which is a very simple, easy, one-stop shop. Should we do something that's parallel to UCAS, or should apprenticeships be part of the UCAS system, so that you go in there and you choose between the universities and the apprenticeship opportunities?
Well, I think that the way that mine worked with regards to applying for it was a really good way to do it, because I think there's a lot of job hunting on its own is very daunting. It's very scary, especially when you've got no experience of working in an office or working in London or in the city. It can be quite scary, and so the way that Whitehat did it was a very supported way. So you had a day when you first registered to come in and put together a special CV that they send out, including a video where you talk about yourself, and then they will help try and get you different placements. You'll go along to interviews, they'll send you off, and then before you start you'll have like a kick-off day where you just talk about how it is and how the workplace works and all that sort of stuff. So I feel like because you're going into the workplace, it's going to have to be a bit more contact rather than just UCAS, I think, which is where you kind of send it off. You've got your personal statement, that's it. Sometimes you're going for an interview, sometimes you won't. So I think maybe that, but it will definitely be more contact needed, because they are helping to find you an employer. And I mean, I work for a recruitment company, so to find the right fit for a company, you need to meet them, you need to meet the company and see if they fit. So it might work having something like that, but there will probably need to be some contact there maybe.
Okay, right, so one final thing then. I just want you to, and you've already started to say this, where do you want to be in 5-10 years' time? Just want to get a sense of it, because you all come over as incredibly ambitious and high-achieving. Where do you want to be in 5-10 years' time?
So personally, for me, in 5-10 years' time, I can see David listening. Like, what is it you want to be doing?
Chief executive.
Yeah, your job. No. In 5-10 years' time, my biggest ambitions were to become a brand manager for GetMyFirstJob, to do a degree apprenticeship, because I've always wanted a degree. So in that sense, my ambitions have already been fulfilled. But in longer term, I want to have my own team that I can help. I'd like them all to be apprentices, so I can support them, mentor them through their programme. But for me, my biggest ambitions is, so we've already had almost 400,000 people sign up to get my first job. I want to get that to 500,000 to 800,000 to get more young people into opportunities. So that's, at the moment, my ambitions are to help more young people into apprenticeships.
Wonderful.
So I've always been brought up saying the one thing that always stays with you is education. So my wish is to progress, keep learning, and hopefully, so following this, do a CIPD qualification, which is more tailored around HR. So that's my hope.
This is a question that my parents ask me all the time, and every time they ask me, I do have a different answer. I know that I would like to stay at my company for a little while, because I really like the culture fit. I think they're great. They're giving me lots of different opportunities now as an apprentice, or as a full-on employee. Got God knows what they're going to give me. But, you know, like Matty said, I am very interested in staying educated, so maybe in a few years' time I could try to look at doing a degree apprenticeship, but I'm just not sure at the moment, so I'm still trying to figure that out. But that's, I think, the beauty of being an apprentice, because, you know, people go to uni for 3 years and they come out still not knowing what they want to do. I'm not entirely sure, but at least I'm working and I'm building myself a career while I'm not too sure. So I think it's a good way to not be sure.
Very much. Well, look, thank you very much. You're going to be here all the morning, right? So if anyone wants to ask you more questions, you're going to be around.
Yep.
And you can ask questions as well, by the way, for the next panel. So I just want to thank these three brilliant young apprentices. Thank you very much.